and get your hair cut way up high. Get yourself a lawyer, son. You're gonna need a real good one.
The year hasn't really started until we get to play that theme, because David Whiting, your legal counsel, your friend in hard times, your emergency button, he is here this morning to take your calls, to dispense legal wisdom and provide free advice. David Whiting, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Virginia.
It's just you and me.
Is that right, is it?
There's nobody else.
I hear there might be one or two, but one lives in hope.
No one.
I don't. I have a digital radio at home, so I am actually able to
use
monitor
it?
the station.
I don't think there's anyone there. Okay. Is there anyone there? Hello? All right, well, I don't think there's anyone. You'll have to prove it. 1300 1300 I used to get, that's the old number, 1300 222 We should have a 1-800 number now that I think about it, because we've got David Whiting here and he's happy to give you some advice. But because the cricket's on the radio, David, we're now sort of, out there in cyberspace, just floating around. We're just zeros and ones, you and I.
Okay, we're entirely digital.
Entirely
so no
digital.
analogue?
Nope.
No amplitude modulation?
Nice
Yes,
one.
yep.
Yes, very good.
I remember when it was called medium wave.
What does FM stand for?
Frequency modulation.
Even I knew that one.
Right. What's the difference? I have absolutely no idea.
Different shaped wave.
Okay. And what's
She
the
said
ABC
with
logo?
Enormous authority.
Yes.
And what's the what?
What's the ABC logo? Is that the sine wave?
It's a Lissajou.
Okay.
Oh, you should see the look on his face is like either
I don't quite believe it.
halfway between enormously impressed and I don't have it. I'm right. It is a list. If I'm wrong, you ring me, 1300 222 774. Have I pronounced it correctly, Ross? Yes. Is the S at the end silent? Lissajou.
Oh, very good.
What else you got for me?
Nothing.
Come on.
Absolutely nothing.
You did nothing on your holiday.
Well, you can't go very far. The furthest I went was to Ballarat for dinner.
Oh, that's nice.
So it's a
Didn't
nice
drive
restaurant
home
in
after
Ballarat.
drinking, did you?
Don't really drink very much. I'm the one glass person.
All right.
And so we drove home after dinner. Yep. Yeah, my two passengers fell asleep in the car, as usually happens on those trips. But it was a nice time. But went no further. Did lots of walks. The Moonee Ponds Creek and the Merry Creek have some stunning walks. So we just did a lot of wandering.
How nice. Well, I've got a couple of free lines. How about that? The rest of them are full. So you are there, beloved listeners. Thank you for staying and not going and listening to the cricket, which is, we know the outcome.
Sorry, but you're, ABC is besotted by cricket.
I know.
Sort of...
Look, and I am a bit too. Really, the only sport I really paid much attention to is a bit of cricket. I'll check in and out of the footy. Am I even allowed to say that on air? It's probably,
I think you can.
Probably get run out of town on a rail.
Remember, you don't have many listeners and they're not listening to the cricket, so you're okay.
Exactly, so we're fine.
Yep.
We are dispensing some free legal wisdom. He's the guy with all the advice, so let's get to it. Philip in Wodonga, you are first up. Good morning.
Good morning, Virginia. Lovely to hear your dulcet tones once again.
Well, that's very kind of you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good morning, David.
Good morning.
A question.
Yep.
Prior to a real estate or a rental property manager, are they obliged to tell you past happenings and ongoings of prior tenants at the property?
No.
No.
There is a provision in the Sale of Land Act, so if they were selling you the property, there are things that they might need to tell you.
Okay.
They changed the law about a year ago to impose an obligation on vendors to tell you what happened in the property. So if someone had been murdered in the property, then that would be something that you would need to tell. But for rental, no, none at all.
What do you want to know, Philip?
Of the past prior tenant, not a very nice person, a convicted child sex offender, which is playing on my mental health.
Do you have to stay there? Can you go somewhere else?
I'm trying to do that at the moment.
You mean you're trying to break your lease because of that?
I'm dealing with a government agency.
Right.
So it is possible to go to VCAT to seek to have a fixed-term tenancy reduced. So you can have the tenancy reduced to, say, tomorrow or the date of the hearing. One of the other things that you might consider doing is, Philip, you might try and find your replacement tenant. But your difficulty will be the horrible moral dilemma. You will want to tell the person who takes the property after you about the tenant who had the property before you. And that might make it more difficult to find a replacement.
Well, my argument is it's been an offer from the government housing, and I find it inappropriate offer, and I should have been told prior to myself and my children moving into the property.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, the advice there is about VCAT, so that's probably the best.
Well, except,
port of call.
I think what Philip's got is a Department of Housing
That's
property,
right, yeah.
and so it's not a VCAT issue.
Okay.
He'd be able to, but what he's simply saying is he wants to change properties.
Yeah, well, I'd keep making that argument very powerfully because it would play on my mental health as well, I have to say. Philip, thanks for calling in. Graham in Oakley, good morning.
Oh, good morning, everybody. And there's no one on the board because you got the number wrong, Virginia. But
Well, that
never mind.
wouldn't be the first time, would it? And I have a full board of calls now, so enough from you.
All
Off
right.
you go, Graham.
Back in my box. Okay, I have relating to wills that my wife and I had drawn up by a large, well-known trust company,
Yes?
trustee company. Two questions. One, with regard to my wife's will, in the bit where it says, if I've kicked the bucket first and then she kicks the bucket, the money goes to the kids.
Yes?
It refers to one of our daughters as a stepdaughter, which is a complete and utter 100% mistake. We don't have a stepdaughter, either of us.
And as a matter of logic, it couldn't be the stepdaughter to both of you.
Well, that's a good point. Well,
Yes.
there you go. You're the lawyer.
Yeah,
I'm just an old dummy out here. I have two questions regarding this. I did ring the company up and said, you've made a mistake. You need to redraw it for us. And they said, well, come in and you'll have to pay us. My
Oh,
question
come on,
is-
for their mistake.
Yeah, hang on. Sit back in your box, Virginia.
Yeah. No.
As far as I'm concerned, it's not like a car I've had for 5 years that should be depreciated when we talk about compensation. A will is all or nothing.
Graham, I'm with you. My view is that they've made a mistake. You want it fixed. It's entirely reasonable, and I don't see why you should pay for them to fix their mistake.
And entirely easily fixable. They go into the Word document, for goodness sake, and they reprint it.
Yes.
Delete one word, yeah.
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 Now, the second question is, if, heaven forbid, I shuffle off my mortal coil and then shortly after my
It will
wife...
be a lamentable day when that happens.
Oh, look, it'll be a veil of tears, no doubt. And then this will of my wife's has to be implemented. How difficult would that be? Would it
Not
cause
at
a
all.
problem?
Not at all.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. The only difficulty, I'm seeing you said you've got a trustee company involved. There's an issue. What I want you to do is think of your names as simply a way of identifying you.
Yes.
So if you've got a stepdaughter named Mary or a daughter named Mary, there's not going to be an issue with any family member as to who that person is and what the true relationship is.
Okay, so it's the name.
So the descriptor doesn't, if you left $100,000 to John Smith,
Yep.
we then get a question as to which John Smith.
Yeah.
So I just don't see you'll have the same issue. So if you were to die before you persuade them to get it fixed at their cost, I don't see it will make any difference at all.
All right, but nonetheless, insist on the change. It's just a mistake. It's they get made and
It's fixable.
easily rectified.
Yeah.
That's a lot of carry on about nothing. It seems to me. I mean, the trustee firm carrying on about something they can easily fix. Robin in Ivanhoe. Good morning.
Hello, yes. Hi there.
Right.
I'm in the middle of a bit of a nasty separation, but it involves a business, and I'm still a director. My husband tried to get me to resign, but I didn't. But the accounts are being hidden from me. Do I need to consult a business or corporate lawyer, or can the family lawyer handle this? It's just that they don't seem to be.
It's really a question as to what the business is worth, isn't it, Robin?
Well, it is, but there's some. I am aware that there is some odd things happening in relation to the person he's moved out with. So,
Then your whatever processes you follow to force disclosure would, in the normal course, be done through a court exercising a family law jurisdiction.
okay,
So you're not going to go off to the Supreme Court to argue your business case. It would all ultimately end up in the family court.
in family court.
But you should be able to get orders for discovery and for the delivery of documents. That your
Right.
family lawyer ought to be more than competent to obtain for you.
Yeah. Okay.
So the one lawyer should work for both then, David?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Just we've been doing mediation, and they seem to sort of be keen that I just sort of putter along with mediation, which I can't say is working all that well.
Well, what you might do, you might consider another lawyer at the same firm. You might, what you might do, you'll have a barrister involved in your mediation, I imagine.
Not yet, no.
Okay, so why would you not? I don't really want you to pay for two lawyers at the same time unless it's truly necessary, Robin.
No, that's right.
But I do think that what you might need to do is consider how you can expand the information that your family lawyer is currently getting for you.
Yeah.
So whether it's you want a second opinion through a barrister that deals with the specific aspects that you're concerned about.
Okay.
All right.
Second opinion.
Otherwise, you're just going to pay for someone else to learn it all again.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah,
Yes.
Exactly. Yes.
But a couple of hours with a barrister would solve your problem.
Robin, good luck. We hope that goes well. Anne in Geelong. Yes, there you are. Good morning.
Good morning. I have a family issue where I have a sister living with my my parent, and my parent is older and needing more care, and I'm just wondering if, when my parents have always said that everything would be divided equally between the siblings.
Yes.
If it's possible, if my sibling who's living with my parent might say, oh, well, I've lived with my parent for 3 years and I'm entitled to more from the estate.
Yes.
And I'm not trying to be greedy. It's just
Can I start at a different point, Anne? I have lots of children who's come along and say there's a concept called filial equality. All of the siblings are entitled to exactly the same share.
Right.
And as a matter of logic, that's not right. Your parents will have a moral obligation to each child to consider each child when they make their will, and to make a provision that meets that moral obligation. And the moment they've met the moral obligation, they can do what they like.
Right.
So it may be that you have a sister who is making significant contributions to the quality of life of your parents.
Yes.
It may be that she's not. But you know, I gave up my life to look after Mum for the last 5 years of her life, and therefore I ought to be given more. Is an approach that some people might choose to take. So if you're coming from the point of view of every sibling's entitled to the same amount, that's just the wrong assumption.
Right.
Your assumption ought to be, does Mum and Dad have a moral obligation to look after us? Is it the same in each case? And look, for most families it will be so close to the same that the rest doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But every now and then you come across a situation where the contribution being made by one child is significantly greater and ought to be recompensed.
Considered. Right.
How is that moral obligation defined?
There's a series of factors in Section 91 capital A of the Administration and Probate Act.
Right.
But it's basically, essentially it's children, grandchildren and people in your household who have the right to make the claim. Mm-hmm. So if I'm the next door neighbour and I look after your parents, then the answer was that's not going to give me an entitlement to make a claim. Mm-hmm. You would be looking and saying, well, what was the relationship and why was the relationship what it was? Every now and then, Virginia, you get, I had no relationship with my parents because my father beat me up or my father abused me and I'd been cut out of the will. The reason why we had no relationship was that he or she forced me into that situation. So it's, did you give up your job? Did your life change as a result of what you did for Mum and Dad? Or every now and then you'll find that you've got 3 children who are doing reasonably well and one is absolutely bloody hopeless on any level. That person has a stronger moral claim because of their inability to carry on life. You know, I don't know your sister from a bar of soap, but what you find is that people who've managed their life really well get indignant that somebody you might call a waster has wasted their life and now says, I'm a person in greater need.
Yes.
Yeah, unfortunately that's true. They are in greater need. So the moral obligation might well be different.
And I think that summarises the complexity of that actually incredibly well. David, thank you. I think a lot of people would find that really valuable. Steve in Reservoir, what's the issue today that we can help you with? Good morning.
Hi, guys.
It'd be trains, wouldn't it, Steve?
Make this brief. But, so essentially, we live in a block of 4 townhouses that were developed 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
When a developer built them, he had to cut the block. So essentially, there's a slope. So at the very back of the property, there's about a metre difference between our house and the place next door. Okay? And then what happened was...
Is that the building or the block, Steve? Is the building a metre different, or is the... So sometimes you might have a little garden at the back of your place or a strip of land with nothing on it.
So essentially, the property next door is a metre higher in the land sense.
Yes.
It is a driveway.
Yep.
So what actually happened was the old house that was next door to us, so everything was fine for 3 years, and then what's happened is some developers have come in next door and knocked over the house next door and then they're building 4 townhouses as well. What's now happened is our fence has fallen over, right? And we thought, oh, that's very not good, right? And also what happened is...
When you say your fence, your fence between your unit and the development that's being constructed next door?
Yeah, the dividing fence between the 2 properties, sorry.
Yes.
So we made a complaint to the owners and they said, oh, well, okay, yeah, right. And then, to cut a long story short, what happened is our original builder is quite a dodgy fellow, and we've already been to VCAT a number of times with him. So it turns out that he has fraudulently not built the fence to the original plans with the local council. There's no retaining wall, there's no drains, he hasn't done any of that, right? So therefore, now the people next door are saying, well, hang on, right, we're not fixing the fence and we're not fixing the drains because our property's now flooding. So every time it rains, we have like a half a metre of slush coming in.
Yes.
So there's like an argument between who's at fault here. So the original developer, which was our developer, had a building surveyor sign it off to say everything was compliant when it's clearly not, right? So I guess what I'm now saying is that the property next door won't be able to get a certificate of occupancy because now they're not compliant because there's no drains that are supposed to be there, and also the fence is now going to fall down.
Yep.
So my question is, do we have to fight the developer, our original developer, or should the next door neighbour developer fight our developer?
I think you need to fight your developer, Steve. There's no reason why you couldn't have a fence. Because let's separate the fencing issue out, but you haven't got the certificate of occupancy was issued by a building surveyor in circumstances where all of the requirements had not been met. My view is that you have a claim against the building surveyor.
Oh, okay. Well, because there's 4 different owners of the property, everyone has a different opinion, so we weren't quite sure which way to go.
That's where I would start my jumping up and down.
Is that a VCAT type thing?
I would be first making the claim because the issue, and I would probably, I don't know, I'd talk to council yet. You don't want a problem with council. You don't want an order that requires you to do things. You want an order requiring the building surveyor to do things. So I would be getting some quotes to fix the problem, to bring it up to standard, and then going and talking to the building surveyor and say, don't trust your builder, here's my issues, I want you fixed. And we do know that building surveyors have professional indemnity insurance.
Right.
Oh, wow, okay. Thanks so much, David. I really appreciate it.
Good luck. Good luck there. I think it's time, David, for us to kick off 2021 with one of our favourite topics that we ever talk about here.
Oh, what's that?
Craig in Geelong is going to explain to you what the favourite topic is. Craig, good morning. How can we help?
Good morning, Virginia and David, and welcome back to the airways.
Thank you.
We're property owners of a house in Geelong. Our next door neighbour, it's a rental property, and we have overhanging branches round about 3 metres in length coming over my garage roof.
This is where I need to just jump in and make some sort of sound effect sound the moment we hear the phrase overhanging branches. So I don't know, Ross, what you've got ready to go there. Something like a ta-da! Overhanging branches. David, go for it.
We've contacted the real estate agent, who both email and phone call for about 3.5 to 4 months. We're getting absolutely nowhere with the real estate
Craig,
agent.
it's your neighbours, not the person who lives next door. It's the person who owns the trees is the problem, not the
Yes,
tenant.
that's correct. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, you do have the right to cut the branches
Right.
on your side of the fence,
Yes.
which is different from your side of the fence. So don't go in and cut back tomorrow's growth. And you
No.
are entitled, should you wish, to just simply throw the branches back.
Right.
Right? Now,
Right.
you can't do it in circumstances where it's likely to cause any damage, so don't throw it on your neighbour's car.
Right.
But you're certainly entitled to push the branches back.
Are they
Right.
are they easily able to be cut down, or do you need to get
No,
chainsaws or things?
That's the issue.
Right.
They're
Then,
over,
then
Maybe-
Craig,
they're over
then
the garage
Craig, it's a
roof.
matter against it's an action against your neighbour in the magistrates' court,
Right.
which will cost you in net terms significantly more than an arborist will.
Right.
Cut the agent out of the loop. You can do, if you visit land.vic.gov.au,
Mm-hmm.
you can do a title search based on the
Right.
property address,
Yep.
and you will be able to find out the name and address of the owner of the property, and you can contact them.
Terrific.
All right?
Go for it.
Thank you very much for your advice.
Excellent. Love an overhanging branch.
Do you? I can't
Sorry.
stand them. Never mind.
Why?
Oh, because in a broad sense, the answers
Sorry,
are
David, I
always the
just
same.
have to jump in there. I've got a message here saying, a reminder for 2021, Virginia, please don't interrupt David. So I just wanted to share that with you. Go on.
Virginia, I tell everybody it's your program. You can say whatever you want. Yep.
I mean, I've been waiting like 10 minutes to do that setup,
Rubbish.
David, so thanks for that. That was perfectly played. Annie's got a really serious issue in Clunes. Hi, Annie.
Hi, how are you?
Well, thank you.
I wasn't with my daughter, sorry. My daughter was walking home from dinner in a suburb in Melbourne with a friend, and she fell over hard rubbish on the street, which was actually over the airport, over the car footpath.
Mm-hmm.
And now she's unable to work, and she's incurred lots of costs through specialist rehab. She's wearing one of those exoskeleton things, you know.
Yep.
And I was wondering whether she could seek compensation from the council for the costs that she's incurred so far.
Annie, my starting proposition would be that it's the responsibility of the person who put out the hard rubbish,
Yes.
interfered with by the responsibility for the person who ferreted through the hard rubbish to see if there's something they wanted. So,
What, and moved things?
well,
that-
you
and
find,
put them onto the footpath.
no, it's when you find hard rubbish out on somebody's nature strip, there are lots of people who come along and say, well, it might be rubbish to you, mate, but I'm
right.
interested in it, or I'm interested in seeing what you're throwing out.
Right.
We put out an old television and somebody came and took the television but left the remote control. I thought, how stupid are you? But never mind. So, Annie, next week I'll have a look and see whether there are insurance issues with the Local Government Act. But we normally work on a fault-based system, and I don't think, and so it's a question of the Local Government Act and the Road Management Act, because the road is defined as everything from property boundary to property boundary, and the general proposition is that councils are not responsible. Right,
Okay.
so I mean, we have lots of situations where there's automatic cover, there's TAC, and there's the workers' accident compensation for workplace employment injuries. But as a general proposition, when you're out on the footpath, you're on your own. But I will have a look, unless you can prove the person who in fact put out the rubbish.
Annie, how is your daughter? How badly injured was she?
Well, she's, she's done her ACL, PCL, and some other thing in her knee. So she's actually incapable of bending it, basically.
Is she getting better? Is she improving? And
Well, I spoke to her yesterday, and she said that it was slightly better. But I mean, it's been 2.5 months now, and ongoing.
Well, Annie, that doesn't sound good at all. But stay tuned next week, and hopefully David will have some information for you. Mr. Whiting, great to see you so refreshed for 2021.
You're so kind. Thank you.
David Whiting, who will be here again this time next Tuesday, as he always is.